This podcast is being brought to you by LegalYogi.com. That is legal-yogi.com.
In today's discussion, we will be answering about bankruptcy. I'm here with Gennady Braginsky of James Cerbone Law Firm in Wall, New Jersey. Welcome, Gennady. Thank you so much for being here.
The pleasure's all mine.
Do you see a common demographic when representing clients for bankruptcy? Any type of age or income? Any common?
It's funny you ask that because it would make my job a lot easier if there was a common demographic, but I feel like at this juncture, it basically, I see people from all walks of life, from from people in the lower middle class to people in the whole, upper middle class, and everywhere in between. Because depending on the housing market, their particular situation, there's no real demographic per se, because it's such a varied, different amount of people that we see. People who need to file simple Chapter 7 just to get rid of some credit card debt, to people who own businesses and are trying to either reopen their business, or just trying to get rid of some debt for their business so they can have a better bottom line, or people who have got caught up in the housing market, collapse, and they have a house that's not worth anything, but they put a lot of money into, and then they're forced to get some help because it's not worth for them to keep the property, or they need to try to get rid of a second mortgage. And it's just the demographics are so varied. We see people from every race, region of New Jersey, different different areas in New Jersey, people who live in lower income areas, people who live in mansions. It's such a varied, at this point,
All walks of life.
Yeah, we have clients from all walks of life, so it would be easier for me to probably target market our law firm, but unfortunately we can't overlook anybody.
Can I ask you, do you see a common cause?
In my experience here, I do believe there are some common factors which have been basically lead people to file. The most common ones that I believe cause people to file for bankruptcy are medical issues, divorce or separation issues, job loss, and one of the most common ones nowadays is people who have foreclosure issues and or are stuck in a property which they can't afford or is not worth enough for them to justify living in. But those four reasons are the most common that I see at this juncture.
Okay. And can I ask you, what does claiming bankruptcy actually do?
Well, it can do a lot of things. Everyone, is different, obviously, and each client is unique, and we try to cater to that particular person. We're not an operation which sees everybody as, as similar. We make sure to cater to each individual very specifically. So basically, Chapter 7 per se is someone who is relatively doesn't have a lot of assets, and they can get rid of all their credit card, medical debt, DMV surcharges, utilities that they might be behind on, back rent, and a litany of other unsecured debts. The only thing we can't really help with is felony charges and student loans at this point. And then there's Chapter 13 people who have some assets and don't qualify for Chapter 7, which is a complete liquidation. And Chapter 13 is considered a reorganization of your debt, and it allows you to pay back a portion or all your debt through a trustee payment over the course of 48 to 60 months, or in some cases 36 months, depending on the period that they choose. And that allows people to possibly get rid of their second mortgage if their house is underwater. They can get rid of tax debt in the Chapter 13 as well. They can get rid of any kind of. They can try to pay back secured debt. They can pay their car off through a bankruptcy. If their value of the vehicle is lower, what they owe on it, they can pay back arrears on a property, like a mortgage arrears. If they owe on their mortgage, they can include that in a Chapter 13. You can also pay back municipal fines. You can also pay back utilities that you might have to pay back for, like a township, utility authorities they call it. Usually it's a municipal fines or whatever. So there's a litany of different things that we can help you with. In fact, we can basically help a client with almost anything besides student loans and felony convictions. Even DMV surcharges and other fines are dischargeable in a Chapter 13 or even a Chapter 7 sometimes. And back taxes can be discharged. If they're older than 3 years old, we can wipe them out completely. If they're not older than 3 years old, we can put them into a Chapter 13 and pay them back over time, which allows a client to freeze the interest and late fees, which is very important. One of the main things that a bankruptcy can do for a client is if they have like tax debt, for example, it can freeze the late fees and interest once they file, so they have to only pay back what they owed at the date of filing, as opposed to the interest and late fees continue to accumulate if you don't file. And that will put people in a worse position because they'll never actually pay back the interest if they continue paying the interest and late fees only. They'll never pay back the principal, if they continue just paying the interest and late fees.
And what is a Chapter 11?
A Chapter 11 is a business bankruptcy.
Okay.
Which we don't do a lot of, but basically a Chapter 11 is a little more expensive than the Chapter 7 or Chapter 13, but it would allow a person who owns a business to basically reorganize his business and pay back creditors, and put himself in a better position going forward with operating the business if they have had experienced the losses or damage or any other issues that might affect the business owner. Chapter 11 allows them to kind of get a fresh start and try to pay back some of their creditors in a more affordable way.
Is there any such thing as literally wiping the slate clean?
Yes. For most clients that see us, a good percentage of our clients, they basically have medical and credit card debt. Let's say maybe some other debts here and there, and if they make under a certain amount, depending on the state you live in, and depending on how many dependents you have, you can discharge all your debt in a 3.5-month period, and you can get rid of basically everything that you owe, except for, like I said, any kind of felony convictions or student loans. But everything else, medical debt, credit card debt, DMV surcharges, utilities, legal debt, attorney's fees, account seal money, payday loans, bounce checks, overdraft fees, all that stuff could be taken care of in a Chapter 7. And you wanted to pay anything back, all you have to do is pay the legal fees for the attorney, filing fees, and so on and so forth, and we can basically discharge all that debt.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank you for being here and for
No
taking
problem.
your time to answer our questions today. We really appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
This podcast was brought to you by LegalYogi.com, providing hundreds of free legal consultations every day since 1999. Our database contains over 160,000 legal and financial professionals, and our phone line is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If you would like a free legal consultation, you can call 1-800-397-1755 from any state in the U.S., and we'll be happy to provide you with a free legal consultation. Our web address and phone number are on the podcast image for your convenience, or you can simply go to LegalYogi.com. That is LEGAL-YOGI.com.